Our next presentation deals with how Omni Retail is revolutionizing category management. We have three speakers: the well-known Dr. Brian Harris, Armen Danielian of Local Express, and James Tenser of VSN Strategies. James, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, John. It's my privilege today to help guide a conversation with Dr. Harris and Armen of Local Express. We're going to, I suppose, have a little bit of a level-setting conversation about category management and digital retail and how those two things are interrelated. So to begin, let's have a little icebreaker, an instant poll, kind of test of knowledge of our audience. Historically, which came first, grocery e-commerce or category management? Click a box. Let's see what the opinion is. I see some responses coming in. Looks like we've leveled off. Give it another minute before we close. If you haven't answered yet, you might be catching on. This is a trick question. Okay, I think we'll close the poll now just in the interest of time. Obviously, category management is the preferred opinion. In fact, they were just about simultaneous. And Dr. Harris, as many on this call may recall, actually introduced the kind of fabled 8-step category management process in 1989. And that was the same year that the Parkinson brothers of Greater Chicago launched their Peapod online grocery service. This predated the World Wide Web, by the way. They had to use a disk similar to one you might have used for AOL if you were around that far back. And category management took off rather rapidly. And online grocery delivery had kind of fits and starts. And just for perspective, online retail, Amazon style, did not appear until 1994, 5 years later. And by then, category management had really been widely adopted across food, drug, and mass. Around 2001, we had some starts in e-grocery. Webvan may have been the most famous failure. At that same time, the shopper marketing concept was starting to gain traction. It was introduced at a Walmart event. And it co-evolved with category management for quite some time after. Amazon did not enter the grocery business until 2007. Many will remember, with Amazon Fresh. At that time, the shopper marketing report was being released. We had a whole decade from that moment until 2017 before Amazon purchased Whole Foods. And in that time, omnichannel marketing was gaining some traction across the board. Grocery progressed sort of slowly until it sped up. And then COVID happened in 2020. The same year, by the way, that ECR Europe reported a very significant report that confirmed category management and its application throughout the world. And that jump, that 54% jump in digital grocery sales, kind of changed everything. So what just happened? All right, these charts are probably going to look familiar, so I won't dwell on them very much. But by 2019, we had pretty significant growth in digital grocery buyers. But we had that leap forward in March of 2020, which is a painful memory for many, but also an exciting one. I think most notably, that 54% jump in dollar sales was an eye-opener for all of us in the industry. But I think just as interesting in the left-hand chart is that projection for 2022, which says most U.S. grocery buyers will purchase some portion of their household needs online, 51.3%. So it's not some anymore. It's not a rounding error. It is actually a significant part of our understanding of consumption. So how do we put that together? This is a conversation we've been having with Dr. Harris and Local Express for a number of months now. Well, we have data flows from both facets of the shopper interaction. Omnichannel shoppers are creating in-store demand when they shop in stores, and they still are a significant amount of the time, most of the time. And then there's their digital demand and behaviors. And putting that together is a non-trivial undertaking. It takes some computer power, AI, analytics, to draw a picture that lets us understand how to plan our categories when there are differing traits or characteristics of the demand across the store and the digital interaction. And making decisions about our category plans depends on tools that allow us to create and visualize what's really happening out there. Dr. Harris, it is your turn, I think, to discuss some of the questions that this little framework I just presented raises for us.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. I'm assuming that I'm on. So,
yes.
Firstly, thank you everybody for being part of the conference today. Really do appreciate you being willing to join us. So, as Jamie said, I mean, the big opportunity clearly is this integrated omni-channel, multi-source data and analytics, and what it can do to provide some new insights into category management as we move forward. So I listed a few questions here that really do put this whole idea of category management needing to embrace this integrated in-store, online shopper behavior. So, like, for example, baskets. I mean, how different are the baskets and the transactions between the online shop and the in-store shop? And what does this tell us about the differences in lifestyles of the shoppers who are shopping online and offline? So that's something that without this integrated multi-source database, it's not easy to get to. You can get to it, but it's not easy to do it. The next question deals with roles. I mean, which categories are more prevalent in an in-store basket versus an online basket? And does that mean that maybe one category needs to have two category roles? One for the in-store, one for the online. And how does category management handle that? Well, it does, but it's an issue that really comes to fore when you start to think about exploiting these integrated multi-source databases that integrate both online and offline. How about affinities? I mean, what categories are most commonly purchased together in the online transaction versus the in-store transaction? Are they similar? Are they different? And if we knew this, what does this tell us about what kind of solutions are shoppers looking for when they shop online versus in-store? Are they similar? Are they different? And this has tremendous impacts on how we then manage categories that are driving these differences in terms of category management. The next issue deals with shopper missions. Are there differences in shopper frequency between online and offline? Well, we obviously believe there are, but we need to understand, what categories are really driving these differences in frequencies and how this relates to shopper missions. What kind of shopper missions are being satisfied with an online versus an in-store shopping experience? And this is a very critical issue with respect to, category management and how we manage categories that drive these different shopper missions. And then there's some very clear tactical issues. Price sensitivity. Are in-store shoppers more price sensitive than online shoppers? How about promotions? Which promotions work best or don't work as well in-store versus online? Because this is going to affect how we then use promotions as a tactical device within our category management work. Substitutions on the assortment side. A shopper's more willing to substitute a product online versus in store. These kinds of things, these kinds of questions are really critical with respect to how category management needs to evolve to embrace this integrated online-offline shopper behavior. I want to step back a second because I think there's real value in looking at quickly at the evolution of category management, because category management to me has always played a critical role in the evolution of retail marketing. Because if you go back to 1989, makes me feel old. When you go back to 1989 and you think about what drove category management to the forefront, then clearly it was really the need to bring the consumer much more into the retail decision making. Remember, category management preceded by a year or two the Efficient Consumer Response Initiative. Now, it wasn't called the Efficient Shopper. It was called the Efficient Consumer Response. So this was a way of understanding the consumer and bringing that consumer into the retail decision-making process. And that's what category management did back in the early 90s. Now, clearly, that then led to, or provided the foundation for a number of subsequent developments in the retail marketing domain. And in particular, beginning around 2000, 2005, particularly as we started to see loyalty marketing databases be able to be utilized in category management, and we had the collaborative CRM. And then the next couple of waves that really built on that really got us into then using shopper information in the category management process, embedding it in that process to be able to not just look at consumer needs and wants, but also to be able to start to look at shopper behavior and so on. And then, of course, that then led to more formalized shopper marketing processes, which really embedded category management in a broader context of marketing to the shopper. Omnichannel shopping, obviously, as the percent of shopping behavior started to shift towards the online part of that behavior, the emergence of omnichannel marketing. Now, I'm going to come back later and talk about, what doorstep are we at today, because clearly this is an evolutionary process. So I've always want to make sure that if you look at this, we started off with understanding the consumer, and that's what drove category management. It then, as we started to get more shopper understanding, and as the kinds of shoppers changed, from baby boomers to millennials and Gen Zs and so on, we started to understand that we had to bring that shopper understanding integrated into, along with consumer behavior, into how we do category management. Now, again, if you look at this graph, there's no question that these waves have been shaped by three things. Firstly, changing consumer needs and expectations. Secondly, very critically, changing competition. And then thirdly, the availability of new data and tools. Now, a critical turning point, as I mentioned, was that evolution in the 2008, 2012 period, where we started to be able to get a lot more information on the shopper and be able to integrate it into that classic 8-step model, which was always designed to really bring the consumer, consumer-based category definitions, consumer-based category roles. How important is a category to the consumer? We didn't have a lot of shopper data in the early phases of that model. In 2010, the consumer and shopper journey concept got documented. The ECR Europe report on the consumer and shopper journey really served up this notion that the consumer becomes a shopper, and it's a series of decisions that the shopper goes through in going from a need to a mission to a choice of a channel, be it online or offline, and then the execution of that behavior based upon the triggers that are then put into place through category management to really drive the behavior towards the categories and brands that we believe are the right solutions for that customer. So this whole idea of now having a process by which we could look at each step of this consumer and shopper journey and say, what kind of consumer insights and shopper insights do we need to generate to truly understand who this shopper is, how they react to different stimuli, why do they come to the shopping process, and how can we then activate the kind of behavior to be able to get the maximum benefits from how we manage our category management. Now, there's a couple of key things here. Firstly, the recognition that one size doesn't fit all consumers and shoppers. So the first step in this process really is the whole segmentation issue. What's the structure of our consumer and shopper base? To which segments do we need to focus on and understand more deeply and understand how that consumer then structures their shopping missions and then activates that, and then how do we activate that mission opportunity through shopper behavior and shopper execution, and ultimately returning back to a satisfied consumer and then the repetition of the process. So one of the key things that I'll mention shortly is this whole notion of segmentation, because in the early days we really didn't have we didn't use category management in a way of saying I need different segments of consumers. How then do we adapt our category management work to meet the needs of different consumers? Now clearly we have that information, so we can segment our consumers and shoppers. We can look at how their different shopper missions are generated, what drives those shopper missions. We can look at what categories are driving the different shopper missions, be it online or offline, and then we can adjust our category business plans to be able to accommodate and drive the tactical and strategic triggers to be able to really move the shopper and the consumer around this journey towards a satisfactory outcome. Now, as I mentioned, this process doesn't stop. Okay, it started back with category management, really bringing the consumer into retail decision making. We then went through a series of steps where we brought the shopper and the arrival of new shopper information and new shopper research tools into the equation. Now, it's very interesting. We're really seeing the next phase developing, which is the integration of consumer and shopper marketing. So we're going much more in a much more collaborative way. We're going to bring together the consumer and the shopper dimensions of this, and this really is a very exciting step, because what it basically does, it really is a very clear example of integrated consumer shopper marketing. It's also heavily dependent upon collaboration, okay? And this is kind of the way to at least think about the kind of steps that you go through. But I won't go through this in detail, because in the ECR Europe report, which I'll reference in a moment, this was presented and served up, so to speak, as a way to think about the thought process and the business process behind integrated consumer and shopper marketing. But the interesting thing is, if you look at, I've highlighted a couple of boxes here. This is where category management really comes to play in this integrated approach. Okay? Firstly, category vision absolutely is a dominant driving force for this whole process. And where does category vision come from? Mostly, it's the responsibility of manufacturers, suppliers, to have a category vision that captures the future direction of the category in terms of the consumer, the expectations, the consumer requirements and needs, and so on. That category vision is what then drives the whole category management process. How then do we take those insights into the category vision, and how then do we execute that category vision through the category business planning process? So that's a critical starting point and really ending point of this process, because category management becomes the vehicle by which the category vision is delivered to the right shopper segments, through the right shopper missions, and with the right category strategies and tactics that then execute this vision through to the consumer and the shopper. So if you look at this integrated approach, I mean, basically what it really attempts to do is it's driven by some really key principles. Firstly, that the objective is to build brand equity for both the retailer and the manufacturer. Not one or the other, not one at the expense of the other, but a process to use shopper marketing and category management processes to build joint equity. It leverages the value of consumer and shopper insights as the consumer navigates the consumer and shopper journey. It deploys these insights in an omnichannel setting because it's based on insights that look to see when the shopper makes in-store versus online decisions, what drives that, what triggers influence behavior. It incorporates the consumer and shopper journey as a roadmap for understanding consumer needs and behavior across channels. And then category management, in this context, then serves the role to deliver innovative solutions that capture consumer needs and shopper missions that then deliver the category management, the category vision. So it's a much more collaborative, fully integrative approach that embeds category management as both a strategic and a tactical positioning to maximize the development of the category. Now, I just want to refer you to this. I mentioned this a couple of times, and Jamie did too. If you haven't had an opportunity to download and look at this most recent report, you should, because that report really does trace the evolution of category management. It talks about the phases from consumer to shopper to integration in a much more detailed way than we have time today to do today. So I think I would strongly recommend that you take a look at this report, download it, and study it. Okay. Now, Jamie, back to you, I guess.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Brian.
You got it, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry about that. I was muting out of respect. So now I'm unmuted. I want to remind the audience that ECR report, the 2020 report, it's outstanding. It's comprehensive. The URL, ecr-community.org. It's well worth a few minutes to download it, and probably it would take some time to review the whole thing, but it's outstanding content and case study content. So let's ask another poll, all right, of our audience. And this is a self-assessment kind of question, not a trick question. But what do we think? How far along do you feel your organization is with respect to omni-channel category management? Where are you on this sequence? Thinking about it? Or well along? And so far we have, looks like about 24 responses. Well, I'm happy to see that there's no response yet that says we're unaware of this essential discipline for omni-channel category management. And it's a work in progress, isn't it? And that's the reason why we felt this subject matter would be of interest for this audience today. Clearly, we're working on it now, but there is a long way to go. So we're going to try and, with the information that remains, present some, let's say, guidance or some vision about how that can happen. So it's my privilege now next to introduce Armen Danielian, who's going to tell us about Local Express's approach to providing a solution and a way of dealing with that enormous data flow that it's a feature, right, of omni-channel grocery retail. Armen, take it away.
Jamie, can I just chime in?
Go ahead.
Before you start.
Please.
You know, clearly, if you look at the evolution that I've just presented to you, what's required to drive that clearly? We have to have new tools that allow us to understand and analyze the total shopping process, okay? And these can't be tools that are in different buckets. They've got to be integrated into a platform that allows us to be able to capture and unlock the totality of today's shopping behavior. Now, the Local Express platform, which Armen's going to explain to you, to me represents the type of system platform that we need to put into place to begin to capture this opportunity. So that was the reason why Jamie and I felt that having Local Express talk to us about their platform today would be very complementary to the evolution of the category management process and what's going to be needed to drive this forward. So Armen, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Brian, so much. It's an honor to hear that. First of all, hello everyone, and I'm happy to be with you here online, at least in this time. I want to quickly introduce ourselves, and basically, Local Express is e-commerce platform. We build it for independent grocery retailers, of mid-size or smaller size grocery retailers out there. And we are located in Los Angeles and founded in 2017. You can see our stats here and amount of offices and employees that we have. We have already more than 500 stores in the United States that is utilizing our platform. But I would want to point out that our major difference from the players out there is that we have built the ecosystem, thinking of omnichannel when we was building that. We strongly believe that data and the data flow between the systems in that ecosystem allows right category management, personalization, and marketing, and that all should lead to the higher sales, of course. What we put as the background for building the platform is actually integration with POS and ERP systems. It's a key for launching right e-commerce solution. It's a key for driving your omni-channel as well. Getting the data correctly and in live format even from the POS and flowing it between the systems is crucial. It's very important. Now, like what we have built and we've seen the challenge in the market is what kind of like inventory management in stores and how they know what SKUs they want to have on e-commerce and what they want to present first. And we looked into that and we built the matching POS mechanisms where we will match the right categories in store with e-commerce categories, and they are quite different. So let me say here that let me start from this. When you're choosing e-commerce platform and when you start this e-commerce journey, omni-channel journey, mostly what people do is they look into e-commerce with do they have a great UI? Do I like the UI? Do they have a mobile app, for example? And in a second thought, they're thinking about operations and can this e-commerce platform match my operations stuff? But what I would prompt and what I would suggest to also look into is consumer data and the data at all and the shopping behavior and things like that. Does the platform provide sufficient information and capture sufficient information about the shopping experience and about the purchase experience and behaviors of the customers there? And after that, once you get all that data, do they provide the marketing services and tools to utilize it? Most common things we see is stores launching e-commerce and then they don't have a sales. Yeah, it's beautiful, it's set up, but there's no sales into that. And a lot of times the reason is because they just cannot do the right marketing because they don't have the data flowing from the system to, let's say, Facebook to do the personalized advertising. And so let's start from here, and I would introduce what we have as the Local Express as a platform. And everything starts with omni-channel sales, of course. So usually you have, your in-store sales, you may have your e-commerce sales, but also important to have a maybe kiosk or something set up in-store that can bridge the gap between the e-commerce and in-store behavior. By having kiosks in store, or it may not be even kiosks, it can be electronic lines, doesn't matter. You can utilize it anywhere. You can actually get the data of your consumers that are shopping in store and get it in the clouds and start analyzing their behavior and do the right marketing to them. So having the tools to bridge the gap between in-store and e-commerce is crucial when you're launching your e-commerce. Second thing is inventory management and POS synchronization that I was mentioning. We have AI mechanisms of matching the data between, flowing the data, product data, shopping behavior, and orders and stuff like that between the systems, and trying to analyze and predict the inventory as well, which is very important to reduce the skip rates and replacement rates. There is also, we provide the delivery systems, and we provide the access to delivery networks like DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, Postmates. So we have a platform with also the bidding system where when the customer is placing the order, all these delivery providers, they bid for the order to deliver it on the cheapest price possible for your customers. Also, we have smart order fulfillment, and what it is in the days of the labor shortage, that even spending time and collecting online orders in store can be pricey, and it's even hard now. It's not just the price, it's even harder since you don't have enough employees. So we have and we provide the systems that allow multi-order collecting. You can collect multiple orders at once. You can utilize Bluetooth scanners to do it as fast as possible. We provide store mapping, and so that makes the collecting to be done under 10 minutes. And we utilize data to actually see and analyze, are you under the 10 minutes mark for the collecting of the order? And we provide that data to the grocers. Now, getting all that data, you need to have a data management and AI mechanisms, and I will talk about that a little bit later. But that's very crucial to be able to have access to the analytics and the reports so you can make smart decisions around your store. And the most important part post-launch is marketing. Can you do this abandoned cart emails to your clients? Can you send them personalized emails or text messages, push notifications? Can you launch the Facebook or Google campaigns and know actually if they bring the results or not? Because that's benefits of the systems, but you need to make sure that data flows from e-commerce to the Facebook or Google so you can do the proper marketing and you can do, have a good ROI on those. So let me go to the next slide. So we provide the ecosystem of the mobile apps, of course, to collect the data and to actually have a consumer shopping as well. So we provide the branded consumer mobile app for the customers to shop around. We collect as much data as possible and make it available for the stores of their behavior, of their locations, and things like that. Utilizing that even for example, for the curbside pickup, it's very important to know if customers are arriving to your store and you need to get their products out to him right now. So in order to make it fast, they need to have an app. We need to collect the data and location of the customer. We provide with the store management app and store collecting. As you can see, the second one, where we're utilizing the data in order to, for example, propose the replacement rightly. So we look at the consumer behavior. We look what replacement they usually choose for the items when they purchase, and we propose that as a first replacement option for your employees to replace the item if it's not in stock. Or even in general, we see what's the best replacement for the product by looking at the data actually and behavior in different categories. Then we have also the driver app. If for some reason stores decided to do the delivery themselves, and we allow that to do, and there's a driver app and routing optimization built into that, and multi-pickup, multi-delivery system. And there is also kiosk ordering, as I mentioned. You can run your kiosk on any iPad. You can actually imagine you can have a kiosk for your deli section launched super quickly by just opening the app on the iPad and putting it in front. So to solve that labor shortage, in order to remove those lanes waiting for the daily, especially in the season that we are in, and the Christmas time arriving and things like that. It's very, very important. So I'll give you some benchmarks that we have right now that we collected from the system. In our platform, average basket is great. It's $106 right now for the grocers. You can see that it's way higher than your in-store basket size, average basket size. There is a reason for that, including, first of all, easiness of shopping. Second, the recommendation engines that we provide and the AI merchandising that we provide, and I'll talk about that later. But also, it's the fact that they will need to pay for delivery, and so usually people buy a little bit more in order to, to maybe not shop every day, but shop a few times a month, but have a little bit bigger baskets. In terms of the categories, and that question was raised by Brian, you can see actually right now the major category, surprisingly, is organic produce. So in the beginning of this e-commerce journey for the groceries, customers was a little bit hesitant to order produce items, but nowadays they're already used to it. They are not afraid anymore that someone else is going to pick their products, and you can see by the data that it's already getting to the match of the in-store category sales. Another important metric is substitution and skip rate, and that's actually something that we are heavily working to bring all the tools necessary for the stores to reduce those rates, because this is very important rates. How many items you substitute from the order, how many items you have to skip because of improper inventory management. It's crucial for the repeat rates of the customers of purchasing online. And so we provide the tools in order to reduce those. We provide analytics and data to the point of which employee skips more often than substitutes, for example, when they collect the orders. So the store can take an action on there and educate more and help to reduce the skip rate, because this is important. Now talking about AI, merchandising, and the data in general. So, the way how you do the category management and departments in-store versus online is very, very different. In-store, you may have a little bit more vertically built system, and you want to place items within your shop in a way that people will walk around the shop more, the store more, and purchase more and more items, and so this way you increase the basket size, right? Where in e-commerce, in the beginning, customers using e-commerce for the user experience, for the fast shopping, and so you cannot do the same style of the category management in e-commerce as in you do it in stores. You have to be able to not suffer the basket size. You have to use some recommendation engines in order to recommend some more items and increase the basket size this way. That's the only way to do in e-commerce, and plus utilizing AI mechanism to bring the right products in the face of the customer when he needs it. And so what we have is we build this AI-powered merchandising system where there's a lot of factors that you can use in order to shuffle the products around in categories around your e-commerce store. And I'll tell you, in e-commerce, imagine you have 20,000 SKUs in store. How are you going to manage it in e-commerce? How are you going to manage each category in e-commerce and bring the products, what product to put in the first place, what product to put in the second place, and stuff like that in your e-commerce widgets, in your categories and departments? It's going to be super time consuming and not very easy experience. And so with the labor shortage, it's even impossible. And so what we built is AI-powered mechanisms where you basically only use factors and weights in order for the system to automatically do the merchandising for you. And I'll give you examples. Like, for example, you can create a campaign, we call it a campaign, with a strategy where you say, okay, for November, I want to have pumpkins appear a little bit more often for the customers when they do the shopping online. And so you tag the pumpkins or whatever seasonal items you have, and you say, okay, I want them to be, if they are in the category department or search results, I want them to be a little bit higher in the result. And I want them to be appearing there a little bit higher. You bring the higher weight for them, and they will arrive, and they will appear to the customers more often. You can also do that by the in-store sales or e-commerce sales by some user shopping behavior. You can say, okay, whatever is most popular in the store right now, I want that to be in the first place in e-commerce. And I want to have look at the in-store sales for the last 7 days, not for a year. And so it will be automatically, dynamically adjusting your merchandising in e-commerce sales. You can say, okay, I want to optimize new arrivals and want them to be appearing first, etc., etc. There's a lot of factors that you can use to do the AI merchandising correctly, and this affects everything, including recommendation engines, including departments, categories, or search results. And this way, you can really increase your basket size. This way, you can increase and reduce actually the shopping time and increase the basket size, which is super important.
Armen, because I'm watching the clock, I'm going to ask you, first of all, say thank you and ask you to allow me to kind of move through this recap slide now. These are the questions that Brian enumerated also. And I think rather than go to them point by point, let me make the general observation that each of these questions, the answer is put in a different light when we start to look at the convergence of the shopper data that is gathered in the physical store environment, the point of sale in particular, but not only, with the very rich data that flows out of the interactions in the digital side of the business. And every one of these questions, there's a more, let's say, complex path to answer. And we could go on at great length, but with that in mind, I know Brian has some summary comments that I think would be quite relevant now, and if it's all right, I'm going to move us to them. These are actions that I think that we think are an imperative for retailers and brands, for that matter. And we also have a couple of good questions beyond, so let's try and leave a minute or two for that. Brian, please proceed.
Thanks, Jamie. Let me just make a quick comment on this. If you step back and you say, okay, what is going to be required to use to deploy category management in this omni retail world? Okay, so category management's had an amazing ability to adapt over the years to different things. Going forward, here's some of the things that are high on my list by way of recommendations. Okay, firstly, you have to integrate category management into the broader consumer and shopper journey framework. Category management today clearly is an integrated consumer and shopper business opportunity. We need to have ways of integrating it and driving it off this consumer and shopper journey idea. Secondly, we have to redefine categories to reflect category visions. I've said this before. Category visions are the absolute key to driving the category management process, okay? And those visions are really what it reflects the new consumption and shopping trends and lifestyles and expectations of the consumer as we move forward. So category definitions need to be revisited and based upon category visions that reflect the future. Assign different category roles where appropriate, where the data tells you that there's a significant difference in the consumer and shopper importance of the and behavior of the category when they purchase it online versus in the store. Two roles can be handled within the category management process. We just have to make sure we recognize that necessity as an opportunity and be able to accommodate it. Focus category assessment on developing the deep insights into consumer and shopper segments and shopper missions across channels. That's a key piece. We have to think segments and we have to think missions, because the role of category management is to execute the program to the appropriate segments to influence how their shopper missions get fulfilled in their shopping behavior. Create new KPIs. The KPIs obviously have to be an integrated set of KPIs that capture the synergy between the in-store and online performance of the category. Develop category strategies that unlock the insights and deliver the category vision. And then lastly, category tactics have to activate in a synergistic way behavior across the in-store and online. We can't have tactics that cannibalize the online with the in-store, for example. So what tactics will most effectively synergistically influence behavior across both these channels? So that's just a few thoughts I have about how you would rethink or think about category management and how category management, driven by these new multi-source databases, can allow us to evolve into the next phase of this integrated consumer and shopper journey, this integrated consumer and shopper marketing model. Thanks, Jamie. I'll hand it back to you to finish.
Thanks, very well. Well, we have some terrific questions here, but they are the kind that could occupy us for an hour or two, I imagine. And one from Mr. Scaduto. Do we agree that for integrated consumer and shopper marketing to succeed, there needs to be more data sharing? He's asking that question from the perspective of a CPG role, CPG company that he works for. What do we think about collaboration? Is it enough to test need?
The answer to me, it all starts with the clarity, the innovativeness, and the relevance of the category vision. Okay, a manufacturer has to be able to convince the retailer that their vision of the category fits with that retailer's, fits strategically with the kind of shopper the retailer wants to target, the kind of shopper missions they want to dominate, and where does that category and the new category vision fit within that? I mean, that's the selling pitch. If a manufacturer is not able to really get that compelling category vision in front of the retailer, why would the retailer be willing to share data? So to me, that's the critical start point of this whole data sharing process. And I can tell you, places where I see creative category visions driving it, it's not a hard sell to convince a retailer that execution of that collaboratively and sharing data to get there is going to be a win-win.
Very well. I'll say this: when the data is collected, that's an essential first step to creating a mechanism for sharing. And it's clear. Think about one of the reasons why retailers have traditionally depended on their brand marketer partners to help them with category management is because of the intricacy of that process across their hundreds of categories. Well, when we add digital interaction to the equation, we just added a zero, right? We just added a factor to the complexity. I think that any retailer that's thinking about this constructively would be not only eager but nearly desperate to have help from their brand partners. And the issue is always how can that data sharing be accomplished? It starts with collecting in a place and providing the appropriate access. There are a couple more, and one, Armen, I wonder about your thoughts. Do you foresee the integration of search media with category management? And you did make some mention, I think, to social media, but does that go for this too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the data should be flowing to every possible marketing channel you can have out there, and that's what we do. We integrate with Google, integrate with Google merchandising. We provide all the tools, and we provide the data to them in order to be able to sort even in the search results the right products as well. So yes, it's a very important, it's crucial. And you want to prioritize the right products when you deliver the certain categories, the person is looking for tomatoes, for example, right? You want to prioritize the right tomatoes, the one that is most popular, the one that is most appealing, and things like that.
Very well. Well, we could probably go on. I'm sure we could go on at great length here. I want to thank Dr. Brian Harris, Armen Danielian, both for your I think excellent observations here today. Clearly, this is a conversation that could expand, I imagine, for hours. So, however, we have a conference schedule to keep, and I know John Karlewski would like to tell you about what's coming next. So I'm going to pass the mic back to him and express my thanks to the audience for attending to this today.